You're talking to an old friend, reminiscing about the past, when you mention an old friend of yours, and how you should invite them over to hang out. Your friend you're with is confused, saying that they don't know this person at all, which is strange because you've all been friends for more than 10 years. Perplexed yourself, you decide to text your friend, only to find their number no longer exists within your phone. You look for your lost friend everywhere, even going so far as to drive to their house to find them. Stranger still, the house that your friend once lived in is a completely different color, and an entirely different family lives within. Reality has shifted, and you no longer know what to do, and so you go online to share your experience and try to find answers. These are glitch in the matrix stories. Thank you to everyone that allowed me to share theirs. With that, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Bear with me here because it makes me sound insane. My house is on the very end of a row of houses on the far left. There is a woman who lives in the middle with her 2 sons, to the right of my house. I have noticed within the last year that whenever I leave my house or look out my window, the woman and her 2 sons, one baby in a pram stroller and one walking behind her, are always walking towards their house. We don't live near anything you can really visit other than a small corner shop. I thought maybe she was visiting somebody's house, but then it got weird. If I was outside really late at night, she would be there, with her baby who should be asleep. If I left the house twice in a day, she would walk past both times. At one point, I was in my garden for around 4 hours doing some gardening, and she walked past twice, both times coming from the same direction. Today was especially weird. When I opened the door to let my boyfriend in, she was walking past, but then at 12 a.m. when I let him out, she walked past again with her tiny baby. To top it all off, every time she walks past, she looks at me just as she gets to the lamppost with a slight smile, as if she is acknowledging something. She always has her hair the same and dresses similarly, and I can never make out her kids' faces as they are wearing hoods or facing away from me. I don't know if this counts as a glitch, but it makes me feel like I'm in a weird matrix or simulation situation. This happened about 7 months ago. I live in Boston, Massachusetts. Obviously, depending where you go, certain spots are more dangerous than others, but I've always felt pretty safe. I've never had anyone try to rob me before. And yeah, I had some trouble with people, but this was all my fault because of situations I put myself in when I was younger. Anyway, I am walking home from my girlfriend's house in Somerville. I am smoking a cigarette and this guy walks up to me, nice as can be, and asks if he can have one. He's listening to music on his phone. I could hear it faintly through the headphones. I said yeah, of course, and hand him 2. He says thank you so much and even offers to pay. I tell him nah bro, it's cool. His phone rings. He answers it and his phone screen starts blinking violently. Like if I was epileptic, I would have probably dropped. I hear really weird beeping on through the headphones. The guy suddenly puts his phone away and throws the cigarettes away, and takes out a knife and starts talking in a whole other language. I said to him, "Come on, man, you're supposed to rob the guy who says no to the cigarette." He gets aggravated, and even though I can't understand him, I could tell by the volume of his voice he's getting mad. So I say, all right, man, just take it. I wasn't dying over $160. I take the money out of my wallet and hand it to him. He says, no, in broken English and points to my wallet. I'm like, you're kidding me. He gestures at me to hand it over, so I do. Then all of a sudden another phone call, He answers it. I forgot to write that the color of the flashes were white originally the first time. I pay really close attention to the phone because of how everything changed once he answered. He answers, and this time it is flashing pinkish red colors. The guy puts the knife back in his pocket. He puts his phone away calmly and thanks me again for the cigarettes in perfect English. Now this scared me more than anything, because I'm like, dude, is this guy having split personalities? What the hell is going on? It scared me more than his knife. I say to him, "You have my wallet and cards, that's all I got. Can I go now?" He says, "I have your what?" I tell him, "My wallet and cards. It's all I got, I don't have anything else." He reaches in his pockets frantically, looking like someone who has lost their car keys, and pulls out my wallet and opens it. He looks at me with more fear than I had when getting robbed. He just threw my wallet on the floor and started running as fast as he could. I just stood there for a good minute or two trying to understand what the hell happened. I grabbed my wallet and walked back, not knowing what to even say. About 2 years ago, I was sitting in my living room with my partner and a good friend shooting the breeze, talking about all sorts of trippy and mundane, when my friend starts to tell a story about synchronicity that involves her brother. Basically, the story she was telling had to do with several people having a different memory from the presented truth. At the same time, we both yelled out, "It's like the Mandela effect." And at that same moment, we both got a funny look on our face and grabbed our noses. They started tingling. We both started yelling, "Whoa, what the hell?" Then the room started to tilt from my point of view, as if I was watching through a screen that just got knocked over. My partner, a major skeptic of anything that can't be explained, sat there and watched the whole thing go down in shock. My friend, whose nose tingled, said, "Did the room just tilt?" Just like that, it went away, and everything returned to normal. As normal as things can get after that. I saw one post in here before that said they experienced nose tingles and what felt like their pineal gland activating when looking at checkered tile. Now that I've relived this today, I will most definitely have nightmares. I've stopped telling people about the story I'm about to share here because everyone assumes I'm making it up or had a stroke or something. But I sincerely feel like it must have just been a glitch in the Matrix. This thing happened to me when I was a senior in high school. Let me preface this by saying I was basically a great student and a well-behaved teenager. I never drank or did any kinds of drugs. Was extremely responsible, no mental health issues, wasn't overtired or under stress, no history of seizures or any other medical problems. So here it goes. Classes at my high school went from 9 to 4 each day, and we had 4 classes per day. I took a calculus course that was only offered outside of normal school hours, from 7 to 8:30. And then I had an off period where I was permitted to leave campus from 9 to 10:30, and then needed to be back on campus for a second period by 10:37. I usually woke up around 6:15, got ready and left around 6:45, and was able to make it back to class on time. We had assigned parking, so I knew I would have a spot right by my math class. Some of my friends were in my class, so I always got dressed, put on makeup, etc. before class, even though it was early. After class, I would always drive back home around 8:30 and study after making myself breakfast, then leave again by 10:15 to be back on time. Well, this one day, I sort of just woke up in the hallway of my school, right before second period. I ran into my friends and someone asked where my backpack and books were. I literally never used my locker and instead just carried my schoolwork with me at all times. I realized at that point that I didn't have any of my school stuff, and wasn't even really dressed for school. I was wearing a t-shirt and basketball shorts, which isn't something I would typically wear and was usually what I slept in. I didn't have my car keys or cell phone. I didn't have anything with me at all. And I didn't know where any of these things might be. Even weirder, I didn't have any memory of driving back to school. I did remember getting dressed and going to my early math class that morning, then returning home afterwards, but had no idea what happened after that. I instantly felt very anxious and confused about what was happening. I told my friends I had to go and went out to my car to see if it would jog my memory, or if I could find anything. When I got to my car, it was locked, but was in the right spot. My car was an older model that could only be locked in one of two ways. You could manually press down the lever on each door, or you could turn the key on the driver's side door to the right and it would lock all of the doors. No key fob or anything. Because the door was locked and I always used the keys to lock it, I assumed my keys were somewhere at the school. I had no idea how to trace my steps without any memory before waking up in the hallway. But I went to my math class, looked around and couldn't find them, and I used my teacher's phone to call my dad, who had the spare. I told my dad I didn't really know what was going on, but I was locked out of my car at school and had forgotten my schoolwork at home, so I needed him to bring me the spare. He was annoyed and asked where my keys were, and sounded really surprised when I said I didn't know. He eventually made it up to the school and let me into my car. He looked around the car after letting me in, and suddenly pointed to my back seat where he saw my car keys, just sitting there on the seat. At this point, he became concerned and asked if everything was okay, and if I was trying to avoid school for some reason. I tried to explain that nothing was wrong, I wasn't sick or anything, but was near tears as I was trying to explain that I would never be able to leave my keys in the back seat because I always used the keys to lock the doors when I got out. When I went to start the car, the battery was dead. We couldn't find anything that was left on to kill the battery, but it wouldn't even start when my dad tried to jump it with his car, so he had to go buy a whole new battery. My dad was a little spooked and said maybe the doors lock as a safety feature when the battery dies. But that makes no sense because how could they? So how had all the doors to my car been locked with the keys in the back? Why was my battery dead when I didn't leave anything on in my car? Why was I basically back in my pajamas, even though I had gone to class that morning in jeans? And worst of all, why did I have no memory of any of this? It was as though all of the details of my morning got scrambled and rearranged out of order. Or there was some kind of electrical short in the universe. We never did figure out what happened that day, and when I brought it up a few years later, my dad just said, "That was a really weird day." An edit. I never ever took naps in high school, and don't have a history of sleepwalking, so I don't think this could be sleepwalking. If it was some kind of a seizure, I would be shocked, as nothing like this has happened before or since then. This happened this morning. I had to wake up at 6:30 for my 8 a.m. class, which is only the next street over from my dorm and the library. I like to be there first, if not pretty early, so I left my dorm at 7:15. I was wearing a dark green sweatshirt, medium wash shredded jeans and bright white shoes, and a black mask. On my way to class, I kept hearing someone calling my name, but they sounded really distant. I would turn around and there was no one outside because of how early it was, so no one to call for me. I continued to hear my name being called from far away, but no one is in sight. At this point, I got a little freaked out, so I ran across the street and up the stairs to the library. I may be on the 30th step of the 35-step stairs when I hear my name again, much louder than before. as if it was just at the bottom of the stairs. I turned back, and just off to my right, at the bottom of the stairs, is myself, wearing the exact outfit I am in. She started up the first step, looked up, and we made eye contact. I got so horrified, and I ran up the rest of the stairs and into the door. I calmed down. After a minute of just sitting between the interior and exterior door, I looked back over the stairs through the window of the door, and there was no one. What the fuck? So, a while ago, maybe 5 years or so, me and some friends broke into an abandoned house. The front door was completely blocked off and sealed. You would have to destroy it to get in that way. We got in by breaking a window in the backyard and climbing in. It was a long abandoned home. The architecture was early 1900s, maybe even late 1800s. It was quite interesting, actually. We found a bunch of old books, newspapers, and notes gone brownish yellow from age, with dates on them from the 1920s and 30s. I remember one handwritten note that had the date May 1930 something. I can't remember the exact year, but it was the 1930s. At the top, and it said something like, "Dear so-and-so, how's your family? How's your child with the flu? Are they all right?" And blah blah blah, stuff like that. Anyway, there was shit everywhere. I mean all over the place. You could barely walk. Destroyed furniture, a doll collection, a broken grand piano, and books and stuff like I already mentioned. This is important to remember. So we went to explore the basement of this house, but we couldn't, because the stairs leading down were destroyed. The first 2 steps from the top were there, then a giant gap, then the very last step before the bottom. The stairs, what was left of them, were old and shitty looking. They were cracked, dark brown, and moldy. So we said screw it and left. The next day, we went back with another friend, and this time, there was a ladder laid flat over the giant gap in the stairs, with the rungs acting like makeshift steps. We thought this was a little weird, but figured someone else must have come in when we weren't there and laid the ladder over the gap to get to the basement. We ended up climbing down the ladder and exploring ourselves. After that, we left. The next day, for some reason, we went back again. This time, though, the stairs were intact. No ladder, no giant gap. All the steps were there. And I'm not talking repaired. If someone had repaired them, they would have looked new compared to everything else in the house. New wood and whatnot. But they didn't. They looked old and shitty like everything else in this house. Old, dark brown, cracked, moldy wood. These stairs were not repaired. They were never broken to begin with, which was completely impossible. We had seen them broken the nights before, and there's no way someone brought tools into this house. Through the sealed front door and all the shit lying all over the place, and repaired only the steps in one day and left. There's just no way. We kind of freaked out seeing those stairs and left pretty quickly after that. I'm not really a supernatural kind of person. I don't believe in ghosts or even glitches in the Matrix for that matter. But to this day, those stairs give me the heebie-jeebies. I have no idea how they fixed themselves, and I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. In October of 2020, I started a new job in a city that was about a 7-hour drive from where I lived at the time. It was a week on, week off deal, so I commuted. I'm a hardcore night owl. I get exhausted driving during the day, but can go all night and be perfectly fine. That being the case, it was around 2 a.m. on the night of one of my commutes home. I have a speeding habit. I was going about 80 miles per hour in a 70 in the left lane on the freeway when I did my work commute the week prior. I didn't notice that there was a road construction going the opposite way, towards home. There definitely was. The entire left lane of the freeway was blocked off by concrete bumpers for a good stretch of road. Because it was so dark and because I was going so fast, there also weren't any construction signs that I noticed. I didn't see the bumpers in time. I've been in a car accident before. That one wasn't on me, thankfully. And I had the same very distinct feeling of, oh shit, I'm going to hit this thing. I didn't even have time to step on the brakes or try to swerve. I just closed my eyes and accepted that I was probably going to die. The realization and acceptance happened in a split second. The impact should have been pretty immediate. It wasn't though. I opened my eyes and found myself smack in the middle of the right-hand lane, driving normal speed. It shook me the fuck up. I drove about 20 miles under the rest of the way home. So a few months ago, I had to take an emergency trip to Texas and I packed all of my normal things as well as a book I had just bought. It was a Mr. Rogers book about liking you just the way you are. I was in Texas and my wife stayed home in Washington. While on a video chat, I told her I was going to let her go and read a book. She asked which book and I told her and she asked me, how? You left it here on the bed when you left. So I'm reading it. I told her, haha, funny, and held up the book for her to see. She looked very confused, and she then grabbed a book off her side table and held it up for me to see. It was the same exact book. It even had the page dog-eared where I had stopped reading. We both sat confused for a long time, and to this day, I have no clue how that happened. In 2019, a workmate was diagnosed with cancer. It was found quite late and he needed to go on sick leave for the foreseeable future to have quite aggressive treatment. The prognosis didn't look good, and I remember the day that we were all told that despite treatment, he'd passed away. I remember thinking how sad it was for his wife and daughters, and that given he was only 10 years older than me, it made me contemplate my own mortality. Today, I got a phone call announcing that he is my new boss. What? I found a picture of him in his work profile and sure enough, it's the same guy rather than someone with the same name. Apparently he even told my current boss that he used to work with me. I've gone through my computer and I can find the emails where we got a card together to let him know we were thinking about him. So he was definitely sick. And I was certain that he died, even though obviously he didn't. He's a nice guy, so I'm glad he's alive. But is there another timeline where I've just found out that the person I was talking to yesterday has been dead for over a year? Or am I going to find out that he's actually a zombie?